Welcome to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. On today's show, I tell you, I'm excited about doing podcasts in the first place. It's where I live. It's where I'm so excited about it. But I tell you, when I got on the call with this guy today, his smile, his heart, who he is just jumped through the screen. And to be able to be around him, I think is amazing. I've always admired what he does. We're going to talk about that. But I have more admiration for who he is in such a short amount of time. It's great too, because the honesty that he's given me before we started recording, we're going to talk about this stuff because he said there's nothing off limits. But this man is transforming organizations all over, and he's not doing it through his words. He's not doing it through a program that you take. He's doing it by the music that he's allowing people to be able to experience and looking at it in a completely different way. The power of music, I believe, is so incredible, and I believe that it could change the world. And who is changing the world is Ryan. I'm not going to say your last name. DJ Rankan. Say your last name though, because I don't want to murder it right now.
It's Kanowski.
Kanowski. Got it.
That's a Polish name, you know?
I love it. I absolutely love it, man. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, bro. I was just, listening to that intro music. I'm over here just jamming right now. Like, that fires you up. You're like, intro jingle fires you up, man.
So man, Ryan, you're down in Fort Myers right now. I asked you about some things, and some stuck out to me right away. My parents have taught me that throughout my life that my attitude determined my altitude. And your attitude, you said, I'm getting to a place in my life where I don't have problems anymore. I just have challenges. Can you help me with this?
Yeah, it actually started maybe like 4 months ago, right? So I was realizing that these problems that I was having in my life kind of negatively affected my mindset. And I just, like, the most simplest change in my day-to-day activity kind of solved that entire mindset problem that I was having. But what I did is I just replaced the word problem with challenges, right? And like, challenges are something that you can overcome. And once you love getting into the grind of overcoming a challenge, it kind of, makes you happy once you do it. So I no longer have any problems, right? Like, what problems would I really have? But now it's just challenges, and I am becoming addicted to overcoming challenges, which has kind of shifted my mindset a little bit. So, yeah.
Well, Ryan, it's infectious. If you're watching this right now, you can already see Ryan. He's a very handsome guy. His lady is very lucky. So whatever your name is, your lady, she's a lucky woman. And I mean, it's not just about you being handsome, but you radiate. Your smile radiates. Where does that come from, man? I mean, was everything perfect for you growing up? Was it Beaver Cleaver all the time and everything was perfect, and that's why you're smiling? I mean, tell us where it came from.
Yeah, man. I mean, being 31 years old now, I mean, I'm not going to get into the entire life story, but I mean, no, everything was not perfect. I don't think anybody's life is perfect. I think what people show on the internet can be perfect, but when you get down to the nitty gritty of somebody's life, I mean, people have some challenges, right? So I came from, a small town called Elma, New York, in Buffalo. And my parents are still together right now, which is amazing. And my parents couldn't even afford diapers for me growing up. So like, that's kind of the household that I came from. We eventually became middle class, and my dad owned a very small at-home business. He fixes boats, and my mom did the corporate America thing. And I kind of saw the best of both worlds, right? Like, my dad had a lot of time freedom, but he didn't have stability in his life because he was grinding for every dollar he had. And then my mom, she clocked in and clocked out, and she made a salary, and we had health insurance and the benefits of having a full-time job. So she did that. So I kind of got to experience both sides. But about 15 years ago, my dad got super sick. He had stage 4 cancer, large intestine colon cancer. And that was a huge challenge in my family. The past 15 years have been wild. And side note, he's doing amazing now. He's like the best he's ever been, which is great. We just got done doing an awesome Disney trip down in Florida. So that's good. But I mean, life was good. Life was good. And I watched my parents. I'm just so envious of them because they gave to me growing up so much. And, we had our hardships, and I remember my parents crying over, not being able to pay bills, and my mom got laid off from her job. And You know, growing up, life is what it is, you know, but it was great. It's great. And I have nothing to be upset about. So.
Well, I think it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible to be able to see the attitude. And for those of you out there listening, his attitude isn't the way that it is because his circumstances were great. He chose to fall in love with the circumstances. Although the circumstance that I think is probably the hardest one for you is growing up a Bills fan. So let's talk about the Buffalo Bills because I got a bone to pick with you, man. Everyone out there knows that I'm an Oilers fan, I'm a Titans fan, and you're a Buffalo Bills fan, part of the Buffalo Mafia. I got
Bills
respect.
Mafia, baby.
Hey, I got respect for you, man, but that must have been hard growing up like that, man, because
it's tough being a Bills fan sometimes. But you know what? I mean, we got a great team. We're looking great this season. Last season was crazy, the AFC Championship. I was DJing parties at the Buffalo airfield, like when the Bills would arrive back on their plane, and it was just mayhem. There's people jumping off the roof of the airport parking garage, breaking tables and lighting stuff on fire. Like the Bills fans are no joke. It's no joke.
So I mean, if any of you have been to Buffalo, it's a blue collar town. Like, you know, it's a working man's town. Like, you know, when you do that, talk to me about like coming from a working man's town and then having the conversation with your parents that you're going to be a DJ. This is not a blue collar job. So talk to us about that and how that came about, man.
Dude, so it's crazy, right? So like my parents wanted me to get good grades in school and I was a shit student. So I'll just start right there. Like I was a terrible student. I used to jump out of my study hall room's teacher when I finally had a car. I would go to Subway. I was in detention all the time. Like, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a little bit of like rebel side that my father gave me. Like he rode a motorcycle club growing up. So like I have that aspect of my life as well. But I was a bad student. And my parents wanted me to go to school, get good grades, go get a job, work 40 hours a week, retire, and, you know, do that thing. And like I said earlier, like I watched my mom do that with no stability. She ended up getting laid off from her job. So I was like, that's terrifying. Like it was honestly terrifying for me, right? To watch my family go from having some kind of stability, a solid income, to watching my mom cry, lose her job that she's committed almost 31 years of her life to. And I was like, yo, this isn't for me. Like I got to build something of my own. Right. So, but I did what my parents wanted me to do. Right. So after I graduated high school, barely graduated, I started applying for colleges because my parents were like, you need to go get a college degree. You have to do it. My mom has a master's degree. She's like, you got to go get a degree. I'm like, all right, let's see what this is about, you know? So I started applying to schools and the denial letters just started coming in. Like I couldn't even get into like a Buff State, which is like one of our schools, right? So I ended up going in like, I'm like, Mom, it is what it is. I got accepted to community college. So it was cool. And that's the school that I wanted to go to, right? Like I wanted to go to the community college. Like I like being there. Like it just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to learn the same. So, I ended up like spinning the wheel, dude. Like I didn't know what I wanted to go to school for. I was really only there in my mind to like appease my parents and not get into a huge blowout and get kicked out of the house. So I ended up just going to school for business because my dad had a business. I liked what he was doing and I liked business. So that's what I did. I went to school for one semester. It was a great ride. And like the story of my dropout is like kind of epic because I asked my business professor, I'm not going to say any names, but I asked my business professor what businesses they owned. And this was in my first year of college. And he was like, well, I haven't owned any businesses yet, but you know, someday I'm going to open a business. And I'm sitting in school. I'm like, how on earth am I going to learn business from a dude who's never owned a business before? I'm like, I feel like I would know more about business at this point, just growing up with my dad and my mom like does my dad's books and so on and so forth. Like I can't stay here. So I got up and I walked out of class. That was my last time I was ever in a classroom, like enrolled in a school. So, and I'm not bashing formal education, but like that was my journey. You know what I mean? And I just decided it wasn't for me right then and there. And I walked out and I'm like, I'm done. So
there is a disclaimer here for all you parents who have been supporting the podcast for a long time. We're not telling your kids to drop out of school, but what Ryan and I both will tell you is that it's not always the right choice. because
That's 100% correct.
which I mean, I think it's incredible. But so talk to me too about like influence. This was a big one. I've been thinking about you, man, since, and I apologize. I know we had to reschedule last week and things like that, and I appreciate you, but
It's all good.
I've been thinking about you because, okay, there's this get off my lawn type of mentality with DJing, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
I'm going to go into a little bit, but I want to know about
right.
I want to know about your inspirations, and then to the get off my lawn mentality of DJing back in my day was like this, and if you ain't doing it like that, then you ain't really DJing.
Right.
So hit me with both of them. Who was your inspirations getting in, and who did you kind of, start to follow? And then let's go into the get off my lawn.
All right. So backtrack a few years before I did the college thing. I had a teacher in my high school. His name was Jeff Toy. He's amazing. I'll shout him out. He ended up starting his first business while he was a business teacher, and it was a mobile entertainment DJ business. So, and he also started an extracurricular activity at school called Wild Radio. And what we did is we played music during the school's cafeteria lunchroom, right? So like it was me, my trusty, dusty, rusty, like Windows 95 PC that was donated to the club, right? And like the first version of Apple iTunes was running on that bad boy. And like we played music during school lunch, and like we only had like 40 songs. Like we had to buy every song, right? And so that was my first time like DJing. Do I consider that actually DJing nowadays? No, I don't. Are there DJs that do that still? Yes, there are, which kind of leads me into the get off my lawn, right? So I'm like, it's crazy, dude. So like in my journeys, I've seen DJs that I've been on shows with that, and like no disrespect, but like I don't necessarily think that playing music off a laptop is DJing. That's just my thing. And, I'm like, are you really a DJ? I'm not sure. You might have to prove it to me a little more.
So when you started out, was had the CDJs come in? Because I know Pioneer hit, but was it still on vinyl? Did you go to Serato? Did you go to Scratchmaster 2000? What did you go to?
So we started, like after the iTunes era in my school cafeteria, my first gig that I actually DJ'd, which in my mind I still wasn't DJing yet, was a competitive school. Like our football teams were rivals, and I had to get driven there. It was their homecoming, and my business professor booked their homecoming dance. My mom drove me to the gig with these two big speakers and an amp and the trusty dusty computer from the school cafeteria, and like we upgraded from iTunes to virtual DJ. So this is still like DJing on the computer, right? And from there I was like, this is cool, but it's not like tickling my fancy. So I wanted to get a pair of turntables, and my buddy his parents owned a junkyard, and he called me. He goes, you know what, Ryan? He's like, I think that this car has some DJ gear in the back seat. Do you want to come pick it up? And it was like returned to the junkyard. And I opened these coffins up, and it was this crispy set of Technic 1200 turntables. I'm like, are you kidding me, bro? I'm like, this is a gold mine, right? So I started like getting some vinyl down and like, setting these things up and playing with some vinyl. And then Serato came out with the Serato Scratch Live, where I could run like signal discs on there with my computer. And that's kind of what really changed my whole career path. Was once I got my hands on, an infinite music source with, real turntables, those Technic 1200s, that's when I really learned how to start mixing and playing around. So, I mean, it was far before the CDJ 2000 days, and like Pioneer again took the game to the next level. So now I'm a CDJ guy, big time. But yeah, man,
I love the fact that you have the feeling of that, because, and a lot of our listeners are going to be excited about that. I want to do a pause here, because a thing that I didn't say is, I mean, when I said that you're changing the world through music, this young man that you guys are listening to, or that you're watching, if you're watching on Spotify or on YouTube, this young man that you're watching is DJing for Success com, which is formerly Success Magazine, all over the country for people that you would never think that he's DJing for. He's changing, environments that way, which I think is amazing. Did you think when you had the crusty dusty Windows 95, were you imagining like you being in front of some of the most powerful business people in the world and changing their whole environment through your music?
No. And you know what I mean? Like when you think about like DJs, like even in my world, right? And I don't even necessarily know DJs that are in this space. I can't think of any of them that are in this exact
I've never heard of
space.
one, Ryan. I've never heard of one in this space.
It's wild. So like when I think of DJs, I'm thinking like, Steve Aoki, like the big wigs, Chris Lake and, the guys, Martin Garrix, Avicii, like the guys that are playing big festivals, they're producing music and playing shows. And like, I mean, I used to think that's what you needed to do to like be successful in DJing, but it's this turn I took into this corporate world where I can kind of have my two loves in one place. Like I love business, like we talked about before, and my passion for music is just so strong, and they're together. I couldn't be happier, right? So I feel like that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing, tied into this corporate space. And I branded myself as the world's corporate DJ. Like in 2019, man, we did 109 flights traveling the globe. I circled the globe 5 times doing giant international conventions for billion-dollar companies. And I never thought that I would be doing that. It's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. I still can't comprehend it. Like, but here we are.
Well, we are here. Let's go back though. Okay. So we still need the detail part of it, because we literally, and I know I segued, but we went from being, DJing at your high school and your mom driving you to working with multi-billion-dollar companies. There's an in-between there though. Kids out there listening. Kids out there listening. Now, help yourself and do not drop out of school today because you think the first time that you DJ that you're going to be doing what Ryan does. But take us through the journey, Ryan.
All right. So there's a couple things here. So I ended up getting an internship within my first semester of college, which was a great window of opportunity because in order to get the internship, you needed to be in college. So I got an internship at a local radio station, and I was doing like the grunt work, like running errands for the on-air talent, like doing promotions, learning, how they select music for the radio, and sitting in production meetings and like stuff like that. So it was cool. Like I loved radio. Like that's what I wanted to do. Like, 10, 15 years ago, radio was the shit. Like we were giving away prizes and like throwing epic concerts, and it was really hard to get your music. Like this was before Spotify was, readily available, iTunes Music, Pandora, stuff like that. Like you would get in your car, listen to the radio, win some prizes, like figure out what the weather and traffic is going to be. And like radio personalities were like awesome with FM radio in your car. Right. So my internship ended and I dropped out of college. So it's like, now I'm batting to like zero, but I kept showing up at the radio station because I made some friends there, but my internship ended. They're like, Ryan, you got to stop coming in. Like you legally can't be here anymore. Like your program's over. I'm like, but I just, I wanted to sit with Todd and listen to him do production. And our music meeting's on Tuesday and I have this really great song that I want you guys to listen to. And, and I kept showing up. And one day I showed up and Sue O'Neill, she's an incredible program director. She's on-air talent. She's incredible. She started my career. She's like, you got 30 days. We're giving you a radio show. And I was like, no way. Like I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm getting a radio show on Kiss 98.5. Let's go. Right. And then the fear set in. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I'm getting a radio show. Like, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to say? I'm not that well spoken. I don't have anything to talk about. Like, do people really want to listen to me? And so it was nuts. I remember the first day I went to go press that on-air button and I didn't tell a soul I was getting a radio show, right? Like I work in silence until like I'm confident about something. So like nobody knew except my parents that I was going to be on the radio. Because if I messed anything up, God forbid I messed anything up, that people would know it was me, right? Like I was a little timid. So I turned the mic on. I'm like, hey everybody, this is Rankan. We got music coming up. And I turned it off, and like that was my first break. I was like, this is amazing. Like 300,000 people just heard me, but what did I say? I didn't really say anything. So it was like I didn't have anything topical to say. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't do any show prep, and they just kind of let me go. But it was a great experience. I did radio for 10 years, man, and it changed me. It definitely did. So sorry about the radio tangent, but this is the journey that we're talking about to getting to do the corporate stuff. So I ended up going to go listen to a motivational convention. We all know who Gary Vee is, and he's awesome. So I went to go buy a VIP ticket to one of his events. He was supposed to show up. The DJ was supposed to show up, and this woman was there with a headset, and she was in straight panic mode. I drove 4 hours there after DJing a wedding, and I went up to her. I was like, hey, like, I noticed the DJ never showed up to this party. I have my gear in the car. And like, this is what I do. I do radio. I DJ for a living. And coincidentally, I have my stuff. Like, can I help you? And she's like, please help me. Like, help me. And I threw down. I smashed that event. And that same lady started, the corporate thing for me. So she was a Success Partners person who put that event on, and she's like, do you want to do the same event in San Diego next week? I'm like, yeah, like, let's go. Like, I won't stiff you, I'll show up. So like, I showed up, man, and like that kind of started the corporate world for me. And it's just right time, right place, right opportunity. I got over my fears of going up and talking to this girl about her problems, and it just was right. So it's cool.
Ryan, how do you keep a sober mind as these things start to go crazy? And when I speak about a sober mind, I want to clarify this and make sure that the listeners out there are not like, I'm not talking about alcohol. I'm not talking about drugs, but I'm talking about a sober mind because I could see it in you. I see that sober mind in you, that you're present where you're at, your joy is there. How do you keep that when things are starting to go so great that it would be easy for you to just go nuts?
Yeah. So two things I think are prevalent to answer this question. The first one, I think, is realizing why you're doing what you're doing, right? And when you have a mission in mind and you know kind of where you're going, even when things get super crazy, you stick the course to be able to get to where you're going, right? So you got to have the vision to know where you want to go. And if you kind of get off the tracks a little bit and derail yourself, you're not heading in that direction anymore. So it's very easy to do in my world to get derailed. But that's the one thing that I say would help me keep a sober mind. The other thing is, just staying humble and realizing that no matter what happens, we're still human. I think it's important to realize that we're still human and to respect the time you're given. And time to me is just so important. It's one of my most feared things, and it's one of my most loved things because it's just irreplaceable and so precious, and you never know when it will expire. So I feel like those two things help me keep a sober mind.
So take me to two places. The first one is the Gary Vee event. You go out to the car, you bring your stuff in.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about what music you played and why you played it. And then I want you to go into San Diego. And obviously there's a little bit more swagger when you're going to San Diego because you're like, yes, they called me for this.
I'm here on purpose.
So, and then talk to us about what you played and why. Too, because I think a lot of times people don't realize, and this is what we did within our company. And I'll just give you a quick story. When we first started a company 15 years ago, our CD player, we had a 6-disc CD player that we were playing music on. It was shuffling. It went out. So we used iTunes radio at the time. I turned on a Christian radio because I thought no one could be offended by that. Lady sitting in the chair says, oh my gosh, this is my, me and my son's song. And I was like, yes, I made the right decision by putting on the radio because it's her song. And then she started crying.
This took a turn for the worst. I knew it was gonna.
And I said, are you okay? And she said, yes, my son just died 2 days ago.
Wow.
So now her experience was completely wrapped in something negative simply because of what she heard. So from that point forward within our company, what we did is we went non-lyrical, we went foreign, we went things that were so abstract that I wanted no emotion linked to any music that was in our environment because I wanted the person to be present, experiencing what they experienced. So the power of music is so huge. Take us to that first one. And I mean, you got to be freaking out a little bit. What was your first song that you played? And then how did you progress through the night? And how do you construct this stuff, man?
Dude, you know, that's like a crazy question to ask, you know, going back over almost 9 years now, like what song I played. So I think maybe the first song I played was PYT by Michael Jackson. Just because like it was just you know, I don't know why I chose that one, but I did. It's like, and I always, so, and here's something else about me. I never pre-plan the music I'm going to play for a show, whether I'm walking on stage for 5,000 people or I'm about to do a 30,000 person arena. I do not know what my first song is going to be. I don't know. I open my laptop, I find something that I like, and I don't even play music for myself, right? But the first song that I play is always what I'm feeling because I haven't received any energy from the crowd yet to be able to feel what they're feeling. You know what I mean? So the first song, my rule of thumb, I play something I like that I'm feeling at the time. 9 years ago at that Gary Vee event, I was feeling PYT Michael Jackson. I don't know why, but it just stuck out to me. I just was getting in the vibe, man. It was just a thing. So, but you know what I always do, man? It's crazy that you, and I want to say something about your, you know, salons and, you know, the music that you're playing there. Being a DJ, I'm sure you can imagine, I've probably upset some people with my song selections as well, right? Songs you choose can trigger feelings. They can bring back memories, good memories, bad memories, traumatic experiences. And I am very, very aware of that. However, I've also realized on the flip side of things that when you're working with crowds of people, whether it's, you know, 10 people in a salon or 20,000 people in an arena, it is physically impossible to please everybody. Even though I can try to make as many people happy as possible, I don't have a crystal ball to know what to stay away from. You know what I mean? And I would like everyone in the world to try and find a way to turn negatives into positives. Like if everyone did that, the world would be insanely happy, right? I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. It's just I can't please everybody with my music selection, so I just go with what makes people happy. What I can see makes people happy. If people are dancing, smiling, jumping up and down, I'm going to stay on that track. So
I think it's incredible, man. I mean, I think it's incredible, especially in your arena, being able to. It's almost what I hear from you is that you're actually going to take that song, and if it had a negative connotation, they're going to have such a good time with you that they're going to remember that as opposed to the negative connotation. And I love that, man. But you didn't tell us about San Diego. So you go to San Diego, you got a little swagger in you, right?
Yeah.
So when do you, I mean, I could feel this. I don't know it, but you said PYT, so you got a little soul to you.
Yeah.
When do you know to bring in some hip hop as opposed to some, you know, some 80s hair band, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, how do you like take us into the mind of a DJ? Because most of us experience it, but we don't realize all the incredible mind sets that you have as a DJ that is helping me to like love the experience that I'm having.
So that's the one thing about my DJ format is I am extremely open format. Like I don't just stick to one genre of music. And there's DJs out there that, you know, they're like, I love music. I'm going to produce this kind of music. I'm going to put it out for the world and I'm going to grow that fan base in this music type. Like if you're coming to a show I'm at, I'm playing everything. And, you know, you're going to hear the oldies. You're going to hear the new stuff. You're going to hear a little sprinkle of country music, some classic rock and roll. I might even throw in some Blink-182. Like you're hearing it all. And we're dancing, we're going to have a good time, and I'm going to take you back to the old jams that you forgot about, and I'm going to introduce some new ones to you that you haven't heard yet. So, like, that's just, like, has always been my specialty. Going back to you know, my first homecoming dance that I did, it's just I'm playing all the classics, the sing-alongs, and I'm playing all the new fresh stuff that you'd hear on the radio. So I mean, that's my formula, and I pride myself over my open format formula, and that's what I did in San Diego, bro. It's just I played a little bit of everything, man. You test the waters, you see what people are into. If on the West Coast, if I drop some West Coast old school hip hop bangers and people start dancing, I'm gonna stay on that train for a little bit, and maybe I'll get a song request, and I know I got some some new pop lovers out there. Maybe I'll spike in some flow riding now and then. I have fun, and I just never know what's next. I never have a set playlist, so it's just really cool to have the flexibility and the knowledge, and I've practiced a lot, so to be able to blend in and out of songs seamlessly and sample music on the go is super fun. Super fun.
Take us from San Diego. So this happens with San Diego. A lot of people think like, my buddy Damian Horn, you need to meet him. He's a phenomenal musician. He was playing on the corner in Nashville after he was on Skid Row for 8 months and, did all these things. Then he's playing on the corner in Nashville. Guy in a big hat walks up and him and his buddies are playing and he gives them $100 tip and they're so excited because they get to stay in a hotel that night. And then he asks them, is this your original music? They say yes. He says, well, can I play with you a little bit? And he grabs a guitar, he plays with them, whatever it is. And then he's like, you guys should come and play with us on Tuesday. And me and a bunch of my friends, well, that turned out to be John Rich from Big and Rich. And he ended up on tour with, all over the country and playing NASCAR and playing all these things.
That's badass.
But knowing Damian Horn, there was a lot of little breaks that made up the big break. Does that make sense? Take us from San Diego, because it didn't jump from San Diego to a 30,000 person arena like the next day. Nope. Let's go through that process. Talk us through it.
All right. So San Diego, again, 100-person VIP party, right? And it was an exclusive ticket-only event. And then I went home, and I didn't know what was next, right? I was in this limbo still. I dropped out of college at this point. I was DJing local gigs, but I knew, I was like, man, I had so much fun on the road. Like doing this corporate stuff was really, really fun. And I just hope that they'll call me again, right? Because it was a 2-show run and that was it. So I was like, I hope they'll call me again. I ended up getting involved with a company, and I met this woman, Ruth Elliott, who tied me in to the corporate execs and event planners at that company. And they had a giant annual convention. So this was my next corporate gig. So I haven't done anything in like 2 years after that. So there was a lull of corporate events. And this was going to be a 5,000 person event. I met the CEO of the company, and I was going to DJ their convention. They were going to do a product release. And this was my first big event now. Two years later, through networking now, I was like, I want to DJ this event. I want to DJ this event. I want to DJ this event. And finally they were like, let's have you DJ this event. They were releasing an energy drink called Remix that was the perfect fit for them to bring a DJ into their event for the first time, right? And I was involved in this company. So they were like, we need to have this guy DJ the product release Remix, and it's going to be the perfect branding opportunity to have a DJ. So I ended up DJing this event, and it was in Vegas, 5,000 people. Incredible experience. And it was also my first general session, which is what I call like corporate event, main room style. And you know what, Kelly, like you talk, like you're a keynote speaker. You've been in general sessions before, so So like I DJ these entire general sessions. So that was my next event 2 years after the San Diego event. And that was the only event that I ever DJ'd for that company. So now there was another 2-year lull, or two or 3 year lull until my phone rang again to do another corporate event. And this is where it kind of all took off, because there was a chief marketing officer in that company. His name's Mark Patterson, great friend of mine. He moved to a different company and he called me. He was like, hey man, and I'm sitting around my pool. Just imagine this, right? I'm sitting around my pool in the country. My friend, big, long, scruffy beard, one of my best friends. He's never been on an airplane before, ever. Get a phone call. Hey, Ryan, I know we haven't talked in a while. Would you be interested in DJing another event? I'm trying to build the culture for this company that I just moved to, And would you be interested in doing it? I'm like, sure, sounds good. Like, send me some information. I'd love to come and do it. So Mitch, my friend, never been on a plane before. I find out the event's in Singapore, Asia, right? Like, we're going to Singapore. This is my first event in 3 years after my corporate event. I'm like, holy shit, I'm going international, right? Mitch is going with me. I never told him where we were going. He packed a bag. I told him months ahead of time, I'm like, dude, you gotta get your passport. I need your help. We're going to DJ this event. He shows up at the airport. I'm like, hey, you might want to put sweatpants on, buddy. He's wearing jeans. I'm like, we got a long travel day ahead of us. He's like, where are we going? I'm like, you'll find out when we get there. So we go to the gate. We fly. We got a layover in Buffalo, Detroit to South Korea. I'm standing in front of the South Korea terminal. He's like, dude, are you kidding me? I'm like, yeah, bro, we're going to Asia, right? So that was his first flight. It's a cool story to tell. But since then, man, he's traveled the globe with me, man. He's always traveling with me now. So, but yeah, I always go off on these funny side tangents, man. Kelly, I could tell you funny stories for days. Like, the stories I have are nuts.
Well, it's not a side tangent. I mean, we're listening and we're hearing it. We're like, I mean, this is incredible, man, because a lot of times it's the space in between, right? And that's what I'm hearing from you. It wasn't. And for those of you out there, again, Ryan didn't walk out of class and quit college and then bang, he's the corporate DJ that is flying 119 times in 1 year. There was a 3-year lull. How is that messing with your mind? Because you got hired by this company and then they didn't call you back. How's that? Talk to us about that.
So it's not even necessarily that I was upset that they didn't call me back. It was more an understanding and realization that there was a time and place for me in that last event. And the company also went through some hardships, right? So it was understanding for me at that time. And it didn't necessarily affect with what I wanted to do. But let me tell you, in that 3-year gap, I mean, I did other things and I was still trying to figure it out. I went to a trade school to learn how to install car audio sound systems in vehicles and remote car starters. I started a business called Twisted Customs, installing car starters. I ended up hating it so much. It didn't fulfill me. I had no fulfillment, enjoyment from it. I closed it. And in the meantime, still doing radio, right? So like, I'm still doing the radio thing, DJing some nightclub stuff now, like getting some bread and having fun. But there was more in my story and journey that I wanted to do, but I didn't exactly know how to do it. And I was just kind of like, you know, it's crazy to say. And I would never do this now, but back then I didn't have the foresight to navigate and the vision to navigate. But in those 3 years, I mean, I was just kind of sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. Like, hoping that they'd call me back, right? And I'm grateful that there was another opportunity for me. But now in today's day and age, like, I'm hungry, right? I'm sending emails. I'm like, can I bring value to your event? Like, what can I do to help you guys at your event, right? So it's my business has changed, and the culture that I've grown has changed, and it's just flourished because of, you know, self-growth and personal development that I've done. And the business side of it is just it's a different animal now. So
take us to Singapore. Take us to Singapore. You guys get off the plane. Your buddy's freaking out. Holy cow!
It's hot as hell.
This it's hot.
Yeah.
How many people? How many?
There's gonna be 15,000 people.
There's 15,000 at this one.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So this company is called Jeunesse Global. Great friends of mine. The owner, CEO, chief, marketing officer, the chief visionary officer. We're all like so tight now. I travel with them all the time. But this was before, they had this culture that I helped bring to their event culture was just not what it is now. Like, you walk into an arena, there's pumping music, confetti flying everywhere, giving away BWs, like.
I think that we lost this young man just for a second. I think he's going to be right back on. But it's amazing to be able to hear what somebody, as opposed to comparing themselves to everybody else, being able to figure out and find out exactly what your purpose is, how you can add value, and exactly where you need to be. It's something that my parents taught me from a very, very young age. And, it's something that I've said quite a few times, but I want to share it with you. which is that, you can do anything. You can do anything that you put your mind to. Ah, there he is. What I was just telling the crew, I was just telling him this, so let me finish the story real quick, is that you can do anything that you put your mind to, but just because you could do it doesn't make it your purpose. And the other thing that my parents said, and that Ryan has been talking about, is the fact that my mom told me I was awesome, and I would be like, whatever, Mom, you're saying that I'm awesome. She's like, no, you're awesome. You're not connected to the things that you do. Meaning, if you get an A on a paper, you are not that A. If you get an F, you are not that F. You're awesome. Whatever you bring to the table is awesome, and I want you to fall in love with that part. And the thing that I'm hearing from you, Ryan, a lot is the fact that you are okay with being the corporate DJ because that is your path, as opposed to comparing yourself to everybody else. So I just finished on that part of it, but we have Ryan back. We love you, man. We're in Singapore. We're in Singapore right now, and 13,000 people or 15?
15,000.
15,000.
Yep.
That's that's the MGM Grand Garden Arena. For those of you listening, that's packed Grand Garden Arena. Go ahead.
Dude, so first time I'm ever on stage in front of this many people, mind you. I'm playing door music as 15,000 people walk into this venue. I'm playing all the music for every speaker to walk on stage to, every song that every speaker will walk off stage to. And I'm getting text messages from this chief marketing officer, Mark, who this event culture has never had a DJ at their event before. And the founders of the company were like messaging him saying, this DJ has to tone it down a little bit. Like it's getting too crazy. We don't want it to get too crazy. This is a business meeting, right? And I don't want to blow their spot up, but like Mark was texting me. He's like, hey man, can you play something a little bit softer than what you're playing right now? Like a little less energetic. And, that was our first event. Like we needed to work into slowly, gradually change their event culture from this very formal business meeting to something that people would want to go to, because for one, it's going to be a great time now. It's a party. You're going to be smiling. You're going to be feeling great. You're going to be laughing, dancing. And at the same time, we're going to pair it with information, motivation, ways to excel your business, how to grow your business, personal development. And it's all has came together in Singapore. This came together. This is where it clicked for me. I was like, I can help these companies grow their event culture, increase event attendance, and help people in the audience connect to messages through music. It's like, what is better than that? Music's the universal language. I'm sitting in Asia. These people there don't even speak English, and they're dancing, they're smiling, they're having fun, they're feeling this energy. And to be able to give that to the masses is one of the most natural adrenaline, like it's like a natural drug. It just feels it's nuts. I don't even have words for it. I'm struggling talking about it.
So we're in Singapore, 15,000 people.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
What's next after that?
So
this is a high. I mean, this is like hitting the largest crack pipe in the world. Help us to understand the high, and then a lot of times there's a low sometimes that comes from that. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about the next generation, or how it progresses.
Yeah, so stuff in my world's getting crazy a little bit. So now I'm like, I got my first international gig under my belt. I'm doing radio. I'm doing some concerts back at home. Like after I get home, started promoting some like national touring concerts. And I kind of got a lot of things going on. And this company was like, we need you at the next event. Like this is a tour, right? So can you come to Italy in another month? I'm like, yeah, I would love to. I would love to go to Italy. Like, let's do this thing. I call Mitch up. I'm like, Mitch, we're going to Italy, bro. He's like, let's go. I can't wait to get another stamp on my passport. So go to Italy, dude. Same thing. Knocked it out of the park. And there's different music cultures in different regions of the world, right? So I realize when I go to Italy and Asia, like they're more like electronic based. Compared if I go to do like a Latin America event, which is obviously more like, Latin based music. So, and I learned to conform to that, the region of the world I'm playing in. So, but things started taking off after Singapore for me. And I got, what's crazy too is I've never done any advertising for my business. Still to this day, I've never advertised. But what happens is when you can create a feeling with people and other people leave the business and maybe they get a job at a different company or a different corporation, the one thing that I have noticed is that they'll say, your event's missing a DJ, right? And I know this great corporate DJ. You got to call him. His name's Rankan. So that's how I ended up going from doing 1 flight a year to 4 flights a year with this one company to then doing 8 flights a year. And it's just grown progressively from word of mouth in this corporate niche to doing over 100 flights a year. And it's just been a great ride so far. It's with a lot of sacrifice, though. I mean, it does come with a lot of sacrifice, but I wouldn't change anything, man. I wouldn't.
Talk to us about the craziest thing you and Mitch, because I know you guys. I'm picturing Mitch right now, but I can't see him. But what I'm picturing is like you guys on the plane. Like, can you believe we're doing this? Because I feel that energy from you anyway. But talk to us about some crazy things that you and Mitch have been able to see or that have gone on.
So, Mitch is a wild man. Mitch is one of the guys that you can like tell him to go do something. Like, he wants to be dared to do things, and no matter what you tell him to do, he's doing it. Right? He's like, I'm. So there's been times, where just I like to play pranks on people and have some fun in the airports and network and make friends. And I mean, there's people I follow on Instagram that I've met sitting at a terminal in an airport before. It's just, that's how I am. But Mitch is walking around the streets of Rome, Italy, having some drinks, bar hopping, having fun, and getting lost. Mitch falls asleep in the back of a taxi cab before, and he never got out of the car. The taxi cab drove away. Like, wild things have happened in the past, dude. Like, Mitch is missing now in the back of this taxi cab. The driver doesn't know he's sitting behind him, still sleeping. But dude, what's wild is as to diversify and grow my team, right? So now my other best friend, Luke, is a great DJ of mine. He's been DJing with me for 10 years. So he's flying out DJing events. And we have another guy, Brian, who travels with me, and Mitch will go travel with Luke, and we're always splitting it up and heading out. So, I mean, I've grown this culture around this brand with my friends that is pretty cool, man. And I don't know, like, your demo here, how crazy I can get with stories or what I can and can't talk about. So, but I like to have fun, man. So when we're not working, I mean, we're definitely out on the town. Brazil's a crazy place to party. I was in Japan for 14 hours once, and we partied our faces off out there, having a great time. And it's just like the memories never die. They live rent free in my brain. That's for sure.
So I think one of the coolest testaments in when you broke up here a second ago and when we lost you for a second, and those of you watching the show, that we just roll with whatever. I want to go into that because you seem to have this attitude and this disposition that when something happens, you're going to roll with it and you're going to make it to your advantage. You're going to make up the rules and you're going to continue to roll.
Totally.
Talk to us a little bit about that, maybe even some specific times where it didn't turn out the way that you wanted, but you had to make it what you ultimately wanted it to be.
Yeah. So I would like to cliff note that with something that I've been working on, because when things don't happen the way that I expect them to happen or that I would like them to happen, it's kind of based off of expectations, right? And it's something that I'm working on, is to not expect anything, because when I don't expect things, I learn to appreciate everything. Right. And a very small story to that is I was DJing an event at a resort in Cancun, Mexico. I was staying at a different resort. Sometimes I'll ask them put me at a different resort because it can get crazy sometimes. Right. So the resort that I was staying at was, it was like a resort for like older people that don't like to have rally and party, and like I want to go to a pool party with like a foam pit and like be in that environment. So, but there was a guy there, he was like 60 years old, and every day by the pool on my off days, he would do movie trivia and like, you know, play this like trivia thing. There's just people sitting around the pool playing this. And I remember like complaining in my head about how boring this resort is. But in the grand scheme of things, it's because I expected something else to be at the resort, which resulted in my disappointment, right? And I kind of changed my mindset. Like right there, this was like a relevate, like I realized I'm like, I need to stop bitching about this stuff in my own mind because that's what's making me unhappy. I'm like, I should just walk into something and see what is there and just be happy that there's even something going on. Right. So after I like realized that, I started, you know, I played movie trivia and like made some friends at the bar and we hung out and had a great time. I had my little Bluetooth speaker and played some music and like we made our own fun over there. So, I mean, that's just something that I'm working on. I think a lot of people should, you know, just start to appreciate more and expect less. So, it doesn't happen too much to me anymore after I start to think that way because I'm happy with whatever I receive and I make the most out of it. But it doesn't stop me from setting goals. Like I recently just DJ'd 3 weeks ago. I DJ'd the Miss USA contest. And it was live streamed on Hulu and FYE. And I didn't exactly know what I was going to be doing when I got there. I know I was going to be DJing some after parties. I didn't know if what I was going to be doing was going to be live streamed or on air. And it wasn't. Like my portions of the show weren't. It didn't upset me that they weren't. However, it set a goal for me that maybe next year they will be. You know what I mean? Like it's just shifting. So I don't necessarily get upset anymore. I just kind of make it a goal to change it.
So talk to us too. I mean, you had the 15,000 people. What's the most people you DJ'd for?
Actually, just recently hit a new personal record. It was for a hair care company, believe it or not. And they had 33,000 in-person people with an additional, I think, 20,000 virtual attendees.
Wow.
Which is pretty wild. Yeah. And it is nuts, dude. Like they had this stage in the middle of this arena. We were in Atlanta and the DJ booth, they had this long runway out from the DJ booth. It was like a football field long. And I saw the stage renderings of what this event was going to look like. And I messaged him back. I'm like, I can't walk that far to get to the middle of the stage. Like if I want to go into the middle of the stage and like interact with the audience, and I do these crazy like energy breaks where, you know, I got 30,000 people doing the same thing at once and like we're having a good time. But I'm like, I can't walk this football field every time I need to leave the DJ booth. By the time I get back, my song's going to be over. So they got me this like electric bicycle. I was ripping this thing out of the DJ booth down this long runway on the stage, like driving around on the stage. It was a good time, man. So, but yeah, dude, that's the new record. 30,000 right there. Wow. In person. So
who
badass.
Who keeps you humble, man?
Man, you know, it's a combination. Definitely my parents. Definitely my parents keep me humble. The large majority of what I do is for them, right? They've given to me so much and it's time that I give back. Like this house I'm sitting in right now, a couple years ago, I purchased for them. I'm trying to retire them. So now they snowbird down here in Fort Myers. And it keeps me humble to just know that I can give back and I feel fulfillment from that. Right. Who else keeps me humble? My friends keep me humble. They keep me very humble. Right. Like my friends are straight shooters with me. Like I bought a car. I bought a new car and my friends are like, we don't want to drive in that car. We want to drive in your rust bucket beater to go to the bar. I'm like, all right, let's drive in the beater then. Like, my friends would rather just drive in the OG rust bucket than drive in the new caddy. You know, it's just fun, man. We have fun. Like, you got to follow my stories on Instagram, man. We do some wild stuff, but yeah. And like, you know what else is cool too? Like I like to keep the old things that brought me up. You know what I mean? Like I still do drive my 1998 rusty Suburban with 270,000 miles on it. Even though I have a new car sitting in the driveway, I like that car. I'm not ashamed to be out in that car. it's what I enjoy, so I'm pretty overall humble guy. I give credit where credit's due. I don't, I don't know, just straight shooter. I guess that's what you could say.
So, as you, and I've asked this question of people in the past, but, if I was to go to, young Ryan DJing at your high school, with the crusty dusty, and say, man, hey dude, you're gonna play for 33,000 people live and another 20,000 people online. You're gonna fly around the country. You're gonna do all these things. You're gonna be the only person. You're gonna develop a whole different business, like a whole different industry. Like you created an industry, and you're going to be the only one in that space. Now, people are going to come and try and like, oh, I'm going to try, but you created that. If I was to say that to you, you would have freaked out. You would have been like, yeah, I don't know. And even
I would have to change my plan.
Well, even the most confident person that is like, no, I knew that was going to happen. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Right.
Talk to me about talk to me, Ryan, about something that makes you poop your pants right now.
So my life has taken a change. So there's a lot of my story that we haven't talked about.
Well, let's talk about it.
All right. Yeah. Let's take a little dive into this here, bro. So within the travel stuff, I started doing concerts and like throwing my own shows. And through the radio station, I made a lot of great contacts in, the music world, record labels, artist managers, stuff like that. And I started promoting my own shows. So I would bring in like a great friend of mine, DJ Pauly D. I work with him like 2 or 3 times a year. And a lot of other DJs we bring in. So I ended up opening a concert venue about 6 years ago. It was called Venue, VENU, in Buffalo, New York. Its identity changed from a concert venue to a nightclub naturally based off of my personality. We were only open on Fridays for nightclub night, and then we would do special events on Saturdays. I rode that out for 5 years. I actually just sold it like 6 months ago. And me and my partner had a falling out. I like to build, my businesses authentically and ethically, morally. And we ended up just not seeing eye to eye on some things. The whole pandemic put a strain in our business. So what I ended up doing was I purchased a senior living facility, not very DJ-esque. So you asked me what makes me want to change my pants now is the realm and work that I'm in now. So I'm diversifying and pivoting. I'm into investments. I'm into, creating additional streams of income. And with that being said, I love real estate and business still. Like business is what I love to do. So I purchased this 72 unit senior living facility. It's independent living. It's all under one roof. And I'm very new at this. Like I dove into the real estate game head first. And I'm figuring it out right now. It's been a journey. I closed on the property July 27th. I did a lot of research into property management, operating, multifamily structures like this. And it's been a wild ride so far, bro. Like I could swear, no joke, dude, I could have a TV show based off of this property. It's called Angle Park. It's the Wrinkle Ranch. And we have a great time over there, bro.
Have you incorporated music into this to be able to, because have you done that?
Bro, I have a video of my first welcome party I did. I did a wine and cheese party. And I have a video of one of my tenants. She's probably 70 years old, standing on top of the table in the common room. I'm playing Juvenile, Back That Ass Up. She's twerking on top of the table, and all the other tenants are yelling, "Go Paggy, go Paggy, go Paggy," right? And like, yeah. So have I incorporated music into it? A little bit, I'd say I have.
Yes. I think, man, there's no end to it, man. There's absolutely no end to it. So now, do you see yourself? I mean, because I can see these places all over the country, and every person that's retiring wanting to live in your environment because you changed the culture and the vibe.
Yeah, so now like I have this vision, right? So like obviously I have goals as far as like my lifestyle clothing brand that we've started, me and my friends, the DJ world that I operate under this company called Young and Focused, and now this real estate thing, Kanowski Properties, which is this real estate entity that I'm building now, is like I love the niche of senior living because it is cool. I think it's badass to be able to provide affordable living for senior citizens, right? Like that's something that I think that we need more of. So now I'm on this mission too, like this side mission. I'm like, how can I provide more affordable senior housing and make it fun for people to live there? So I'm like, this is the next journey, bro. I'm like,
Dude,
I'm gonna figure it out. So yeah, I don't know.
that's
We're
incredible,
figuring it
man.
out.
I
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So the whole reason, Ryan, why I started the podcast is because of my kids. Um, I started it because I wanted to take it's Maddox and McKenna. Maddox is 10 years old and McKenna just turned 13. And
Love those
Maddox,
movies.
to help you to understand who Maddox is, the other day, it was a couple months ago, we were calling for my son to come down the stairs. And we're calling for him, calling for him, calling for him. We're like, we got to go. And he comes down, it's like 10, 15 minutes late.
Wow.
And as he's walking down the stairs, he just has this big old grin on his face and he says, right on time. And we couldn't do anything. I mean, we were so mad, we were late. But to him, he was right on time because it's Maddox time and it's Maddox style, and that's who he is. My daughter got one of the greatest hearts that I've ever seen. Got a huge heart. She's an artist. She's into acting and that whole side, and she just got this sense of humor that is hilarious. So I started the podcast for them because I wanted to take iconic people like you who have traveled around the world, who have done things that most people only dream of, and I wanted to show them that Ryan, DJ Rankan, the corporate DJ, the now retirement living specialist that's going to change the world,
Spice it up, baby. Keep it going.
is not a superhero. He's a guy who has a great attitude and crazy work ethic. So what advice would you give to Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both of their names, Ryan, it would be amazing.
Maddox and McKenna. So you know what, dude? There's so much advice that growing up in this connected age that I could give you because the social media and the internet is a very powerful place. And everything that we put on the internet is going to be there forever, right? So like the things that you say, every single show you do will forever be in the history, searchable and viewable. So I think that one piece of advice that I would give to Maddox and McKenna would be to realize who you are as a person and live your life with love and abundance and lead with love and think about what you say before you say it always, right? And I think the other thing that I would tell them, Maddox and McKenna, would be that there are 5 types of wealth in the world. There's financial wealth, which is obviously money. There's social wealth, which is like status, right? There's time wealth, which I believe comes in the course of like your time freedom. There's physical wealth, which is your health. And then there's your mental wealth, which is your happiness. And I think you need to be weary of paths that lure you from 1 and 2, which is money and status. They may lure you with money and status, but they may rob you from 3, 4, and 5, which is your freedom, health, and happiness. And I think that they need to be very, very wary of those 5, forms of wealth and how to best navigate them. So there's my piece of advice for them.
And man, I appreciate you. I appreciate it. It's amazing. It's amazingly inspiring because you're not saying it. You're not that person that's like, you need to do this, but through your story, man, you're giving people permission to walk their own path. And I think this is
100%.
huge. I think it's so huge in a marketing time today, because everyone tells you, you need to market yourself this way. You need to market. And what I want to encourage you with, we had a conversation. You said nothing's off limits. So we had a conversation. You were like, I'm going to up my Instagram game, and I've only put up 11 posts or whatever it was that you said when we started.
Yeah.
I want to take a second to encourage you, man, because those 11 posts meant something, and those 11 posts are more important than 1,000 posts of someone doing something because they thought that it was the thing to do. You and your message and who you are inspires so many. Your light inspires so many, more, and transcends more than your music, more than all the things that you do, but just who you are. And you have lit me on fire today, man. And I'm sure that every single viewer and every single listener has been on fire today too. And I want to thank you for that, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm so excited about it. And you know what? It's been an incredible opportunity because I'm not used to being able to like talk, right, to people. I'm normally behind a DJ booth. The only opportunity I ever get to really speak is through music. So it's been cool, man. I really thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Well, we absolutely love you. Well, I want to tell me the not to do's. Maybe that's not the right word, but the not to do's when you go and you see a DJ, because I have friends who are DJs and they're like, if you would see from my side, you just need to pump the brakes a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So give us, the audience who's jamming to your stuff, give us the top 3 not to do's that we shouldn't do as an audience member that will respect you and respect your craft.
All right, here we go. Rule, like what to do first, never do it. Never, ever do this. If you are someone in the crowd that is not having a good time, okay, first and foremost, going back to what we talked about, those are based off of your expectations. You probably expected something else to be playing than what currently is. So don't be upset about that. But never go to the DJ and say, play something that I can dance to, because 10 times out of 10, I'm probably playing something you can dance to. You're just choosing not to dance, right? So like, don't ever say those lines. Play something I can dance to. I hate it. All right? Like, you can dance to this. You're just choosing not to, right? So the other thing is that, never, ever, ever do this, is touch the DJ gear. It's happened to me so much, especially in nightclubs. This happens more in nightclubs than it does in like corporate events, because I'm on a stage, right? Nightclubs, man, they come over that DJ booth, man, and they just want to touch the turntable. Don't ever touch it. Don't touch the gear, right? And then, yeah, I don't know why they just want to, people just want to DJ. And the other thing would be, sometimes it gets a little rowdy on stage. And when people come and request music, they have the drink, right? They got the drink and they hover it. Oh, it's happened to me twice, Kelly. It's happened to me twice. They got the drink. They're leaning in. The drink spills all over the turntables or the mixer, the computer. So like, just don't bring your drinks near the DJ booth. You don't want to be the one why the whole party stops, right? Like, we're putting that on you. If it stops because of you, we're putting it on you, right?
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. So guys, now's the time. If you're listening, you're watching, now's the time. You see the sponsor scrolling across the tickers. Click the links, do what you need to do, check them all out. But mainly what I want to do is I want to ask every single one of you, you need to share this. Now, the parents that listened to Ryan earlier say that he dropped out of college and that you were like, I ain't sharing this with my kids. No, share it with every single person that on this planet. The reason why is because Ryan's message is so important. Ryan did not go after and get mad because he wasn't what he is. He is who he is, and he fell in love with that. And guess what happened? All the magic, all the things, but he wasn't focused on the things. He wasn't focused on traveling around the world, getting in these corporate events, becoming the only corporate DJ in the world. And if your company hasn't had him, you need to have him. He was simply focused on doing exactly what he was purposed to do. And I want to thank you for that, Ryan. I want to thank you so much for that. And I tell you, if you are listening, share it. Share it to every single person that you possibly can. And Ryan, I can't thank you enough. I want to have another episode with you, man.
I love that.
You and I have an agreement at some point. I get to spray champagne on your crowd at some point. So I want to thank you, man. And I just want to tell you that you're officially off the hot seat.
Thanks, bro. Kelly, man, it's been such a pleasure being on the show. So excited.